Yeah, it's one of the unintended consequences of maybe being somewhere for a while. And so I've been there. This will be my 35th year now since 1981. So I know a lot of guys that have come through the program. And, yeah, I try to explain that to our players. Just to give you a quick, for instance, George was in town back during spring practice. I think it was a Tuesday morning. He's sitting there at 6:45 in a special teams meeting. And 2 days later, Dallas Clark sitting in the same room, same meeting. So two guys that are just, top shelf players. Saw Big E. Last time I saw him was in the Hy-Vee parking lot getting a cup of coffee. And he was getting in the car. He's back seeing one of his friends from his time in Iowa City. But, yeah, that's the fun part about it is to see what these guys grow into. And some of them playing pro football. Big E did. He found fame in a different, probably you could argue a bigger arena. And but for all of them to go on and just start their adult lives, whether they get married or not, raise family, whatever, but just see them be adults. It's a fun part about the job. I think that's probably over hyped or overstoried, if you will. Football is football, and I think one of the great things about college football, probably one of the reasons it's so popular. It's a very diverse, it's such a diverse game and has been for quite some time. So, styles of play, I think, are more based on your program than they are regions, typically. And, you just kind of recruit to, your style of play. You recruit to your style of play. Your style of play fits to who you can recruit to. Now, if you're at some schools can recruit anybody, so they get to choose what they want. But I think it's more about strategically trying to figure out what you can do and do well and do consistently. And then you go from there. And every year is different. But so long story short, I think the bigger challenge will probably be travel for them. That's not easy coming east a lot. I equate it to pro football. When you're in the NFL, when you have travel issues, it can be a factor in how the week goes. Yeah, I mean, selfishly, if we're going to play a West Coast team, I'd rather play them in November at home anytime. I hope it's rotten, miserable, which there's a 50-50 shot of that in Iowa City. But anyway, it's selfishly you like that. But, I think some of that stuff just gets overhyped a little bit.
Can that change the recruiting operation for you guys, though, now that you have maybe more doors open in California?
Yeah, maybe not. We for us personally, we tend to play better. Although, I'll come back to that. We play better if it's not just the prospect's family is coming to campus, whether it's mom and dad, just one or the other. We tend to do better that way. So the further you branch out, probably the less likely that's going to happen. But the flip side is, nowadays people are traveling like I never would have dreamt of 20 years ago. And they're showing up at spring practice at 8:30 in the morning on a Tuesday. Like, seriously, you guys go to class and things like that, but it's a part of the college experience. They're not doing that as seniors now. So, maybe it'll happen. We'll see, but we're not going to try to force it.
Coach, have you played?
Yeah, he's such a great young guy. We're so fortunate. I mentioned up there, Luke Lachey is one of the most impressive young people I've ever been around. And he's very similar. He was not a 5-star. In fact, he wasn't even on our first list. And then, we were working down the list and got him. Shows you how smart we are. And it's been that way with some tight ends that we've recruited. Kittle was right before signing. I don't know what his time is. I don't know how fast he is, but I know he's a football player. He makes tough catches. He gets open. He is, like I've talked about, Luke Addison's very similar. He's just a great young guy. And as I mentioned up there, Luke really took ownership of him when Luke was hurt. Did a great job helping him out. And those two guys are just a really good 1-2 team, if you will.
Coach, have you played the new EA?
I'll come right back.
Coming as a walk-on, and now we see you representing the team. How do you see it?
Yeah, that's one of my fears as we move forward. We're going to have to see rosters get reduced. And I think, as you know, walk-ons have been such a big part of our program historically. Whether you go back to the 80s, certainly the last 25 years. Just mentioned Dallas Clark. He's a walk-on. So, Quinn's the guy that's focused. He's serious. Is very serious. Dad's a coach, high school, very successful high school coach. He comes from a football background. All he's done is come in here and work. And it took Phil maybe 2 years before he started actually calling him by his name in our meetings. Not to Quinn, but like he'd act like he didn't know who the guy was. And Phil's always playing games, but you could tell Phil liked him right off the bat. He's got the right makeup, if you will. It's just a matter of him getting comfortable playing.
Coach, have you played the new EA video game with any of the guys?
No. No.
No plans?
I've heard a lot about it on the radio, so it sounds like it's a big, wish I was an investor in that company or, whoever came up with it. But, yeah, I'm not a big video game guy. I think last time I played, I don't know, 25 years ago, got my ass kicked. So, no, not really interested in that. I get enough of those other places.
What game was it? 25 years ago, what were you playing?
I can't even tell you. Our kids used to play in the basement, They had a traveling trophy and all that stuff. Taped up bowling trophy or something. I don't know. Thanks for the coffee. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'll sit up here and talk for an hour about Jay. What he did last year is just phenomenal. We all were confident as coaches. We were confident he'd play really well. To put up the numbers he put out, nobody would, in their right mind, make that prediction of any young guy. And if it was Jack Campbell and him role reversed, still would have made the prediction. But I think the story behind Jay, in my opinion, is this: in today's world of college football, with transfers, free agency, all this stuff, he got stuck behind a really good player in Jack Campbell. Jay's no dummy. Like, Jack's pretty good. He recognized that and, saw it. Never complained about anything, just worked his tail off. And the smartest thing he did, he learned from Jack. And that's encourage our guys. If you want to be a winner, if you want to be a good player, there's a lot of them sitting in this room. Follow those guys. Be like them. And Jay took that to heart. So he watched everything Jack did, how he prepares, how he is with his teammates. Check, check, check. He was doing a great job on special teams. When he was in, he played the way you'd hope a guy played. And then when he gets his chance, and he was patient enough to stay and wait for his chance, and boy, he took off, and he played great last year. And if he don't play great this year, I'll be shocked. He's that kind of guy. So what he brings as a football player is important. What I value more is his leadership and the kind of person he is, the way he thinks. Because I know what he's telling younger guys on our team, how we do things. And that's, you can't pay for that. That's really valuable. I guess today you can't pay for that, but we don't pay for that. It's just something encouraged, if you will. It's big for us, and it's Midwest. Again, I reference, we want parents. If they can drive to our campus, that's a win for us. I can't remember, we beat a MAC team for them. I've said for years, if we just get the MAC All-Stars in our recruiting, we got a chance to have a really good football team. Yeah, Jay's a great example of that. He was under-recruited, but boy, he's a hell of a football player, and he can play anywhere in the country. I mean, he's proven that. So, you don't always know at the front end what a guy's going to be 5 years later, 4 years later, 3 years later, and that gets in more to the mental component a guy's got, and the way he is now is the way he was when we recruited him. He's a winner. I mean, he's going places. He's a great kid, got a great outlook on life. Everything he does, he brings a healthy perspective to it.
Do you have any third year, fourth year starters on the offensive line? What luxury does that provide you at this point of year?
You can't microwave experience up front, and occasionally you get a Brian Balaga walks in and who can play as a freshman. We haven't had many of those guys. James Daniels was that guy, Balaga. But for the most part, linemen, my experience, it used to be year 4 and 5. I'm dating myself, year 4 and 5. So one guys really took off. In today's world, it's year 3, 4, and maybe 5 if you're lucky. That's where things happen, and you just can't microwave. So guys can be trying their asses off, but it's got to happen for him. Logan Jones, a good example, who was a really good player when he took over, but he's a much better player now. And probably the biggest thing I could say is, I think logically you could probably argue we have maybe 7 guys that could probably start for us and be successful. I couldn't have said that the last couple of years. Probably hard to come up with 5, quite frankly. And as we got into the seasons, less than that. So as we sit here right now, at least we're in better shape, and we have a chance realistically maybe to set some tempo up front, which, we're a better team if we can do that.
We're talking about Indiana.
Yeah, not come back.
Indiana hired Ferentz. Both start out separately. GA's at Pittsburgh. With the did you know him at all or run into him through the years?
I just know the Signetti name. It's pretty well known in Western PA. His dad and the family. He's had great success everywhere he's been, so I expect he'll do a great job here. Yep.
We're talking the scholarships. are scheduled to be adjusted next year. It goes up to 105 as a roster limit. What's the conversation like? I mean, are you planning to fill that to 105? And how does that adjust maybe either recruiting strategy or how, we talked about walk-ons and how that may adjust how you recruit players that normally would be walk-ons?
That's a great question. To answer the first part of the question, we have not collectively spent a lot of time talking about that yet. And, we'll talk in general terms. We'll find some time over the next, bye weeks and during camp. But until we really have a better idea of what it's going to look like, I don't want to burn too much energy on it or, waste too many brain cells. But your point is well taken. There's going to be a whole different, I think, way of looking at it. And probably every school's going to have a different perspective on it. I don't know that we can go out and find 100 guys, although maybe we can because the other schools won't have as, much be able to take as many players. So we'll kind of play it by ear. But I think it's going to be, the cause of a lot of really good discussion. And once we know more about what the playing rules are going to be, maybe we can talk a little bit more intelligently about what's our best approach. And our approach will probably be different than, this other schools. So, it's going to be interesting.
Coach, talking about the offensive line a little bit. I know last year, something that you mentioned quite a bit was that you felt like the maturity had really increased between all the guys that were going to play. Do you feel like there's maybe a different element that can take them to that? There was maturity last year. Is there another element that can take them to another level this year?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's it's going to be on the agenda for August. At some point you have to, it's one thing to play. At some point you got to play, really play. And we just haven't been there last year or two, and it's nobody's fault. It's just the way it is. But there's one thing I know a little bit about, it's offensive line. I don't pretend to know much about anything. Done it. I've been through the highs, the lows. I mean, you learn life lessons. We had a really good line in '83. The bad news was, and the coach didn't figure this out, the line coach, 7 of them were seniors. So '84 is a wild ride. But we got there. It took a while. And, so that's the next step, is not only playing okay, but playing really, winning level football. And for us, we have a vision of what it looks like, and we're not there yet. But I think we're totally capable, and I think we're able now, George, number one, but all of us, to expect maybe a little bit more from the guys and maybe a little better job of finishing things and, really doing the little things you have to do that makes such a big difference in production. And that's the beauty of offense. When guys start to understand, first of all, you got to be able to do it, then you got to understand the importance of it. But if you do those little things really well, that's how big plays typically are born. And if you don't do those things, you leave a lot out there on the table. We've, Lord knows we've done enough of that. So that's what we're trying to overcome right now.
Coach Ferentz here.
I'll come back to you.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh,
Coach
who the hell is this guy crashing the party?
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Jay Higgins here.
Yeah.
Football.
I've heard about you. Yeah.
What do you do in your free time? Any hobbies that you have?
Golfing with Jay Higgins. It's one of my favorite things. It's a blatant lie. I don't golf. So I hope you weren't standing when I was bragging about you, were you?
No, it got to Twitter. Hawk sent it to me.
So,
Yeah, it got out quick.
I love it. So I'm just going to tell you what, Carl Jackson, you don't know Carl, right? Carl took me under his wing in 1981 when I came here. He was a running back coach. He was on our staff till, I think, 07, 08, he retired. But he had a great taste. Just don't ever brag on anybody but that, folks, because it comes back and bites you. And so anything nice I said, I was just kidding. Okay, Jay, good. As long as you got it, yeah.
I wanted to
Come right back.
I want to ask about Ray Braithwaite. He's now one of the highest paid strength coaches in the country. What have you seen? How have you seen him grow into that role in the last 4 years?
He's been tremendous. Yeah, Ray's first class, and he's been first class for quite a while. He took over a really tough circumstance, a very challenging circumstance, and did unbelievable. And I'm not sure I could have handled things the way he did. So he did a great job. Players believe in him. His expertise level is outstanding. His work ethic's outstanding. He's got a great staff of guys underneath him, and he put those guys together. So those guys are all together, and the players believe in him, and that's what it's all about. But he's been tremendous. He's a great person on top of it.
How did you see him do it though? Like that transition? What did he do?
It's one foot in front of the other. Yeah. There's no, it's like everything else. When things hit the fan, it's one foot in front of the other, and don't look too far down the road. Let's just try to see what we can do today and keep moving forward.
Looked at as a dark horse for the college football playoff.
Yeah, what's that mean exactly, dark horse? I never asked anybody that. So who wins the Kentucky Derby? The dark horse or the lighter horse or Palomino's or it's Palomino, right? Is that a pony? I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry. No, I'm off on a tangent here. Sorry. Okay.
So I guess how exciting is it when you get 12 teams to play? How exciting is it to think about maybe playing a college football game in next year?
I mean, every game in Kentucky's exciting. I don't care who comes in, and you know, this conference expansion. I mean, it's just a new world. I'm old enough to be in the Big Ten when the Big Ten was the Big Ten. There was 10 of us. There was no East-West back then, so everybody had the argument about schedules. Who's got the best schedule? So anytime you don't have conference play, that's part of it, unless you go round robin. But long story short, you know, we all got 12 games, and as I just said to the guys over on TV, my wife told me this about 40 years ago. Hardly being a football expert, she goes, "It seems like if you guys win, things are good, and when you lose, it ain't so good." So that's really an astute observation. Mary, you're exactly right, but that's really what it gets down to. So we got 12 games, every one of them count the same, and if we can win 12 or as many as possible out of 12, then if we deserve it, we'll get a good reward and whatever that may be. And it's probably gonna be different this year than it was, you know, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. But the challenge is winning. That's the hard thing.
Right back.
Quarterbacks, guys working in receivers.
Yep.
How do you see him handle that transition, and what gave you the confidence he can do that?
He's done fine, and you know, he actually got some experience in that at Colorado State. He worked with third receivers as well. And I'll go back to Bill Snyder. I was with Bill for 8 years. Bill coached quarterbacks and receivers. He had both positions, you know, 30 years ago, but he did them both. So you know, it's kind of glove in hand, if you will. Makes perfect sense. Again, I think the biggest thing is that, you know, the players have responded to John well, and you know, we're seeing growth out in the field. And that's what's important.
How can that expanded college football playoff maybe define success differently than maybe a bowl game would have?
Yeah, I mean, that was my fear. I said it earlier. When we went from 2 to 4, I didn't like that at all, me personally. If you go to 4, you might as well go to 8. And then you're going to argue about who's 8, who's 9, and, you know, 3, 4, then it was 2, 3. There's always going to be an argument. So, you know, if you're going to expand, then expand. At least we're doing that. But what I didn't like about going from 2 to 4, it really de-emphasized the importance of the bowl structure and how, you know, there's so many good stories in college football. Just talking to Derek about our experience in 2001 at the Alamo Bowl. And I mean, that was as good a moment as I've had in coaching in that game. So, you know, you have all these levels in college football, and there's success for everybody if you're looking at it the right way. I know it's all about winning. I get that, and I understand that totally. So, yeah, I guess in this world, at least now we're going back to, I don't know how they're going to incorporate things and how it's all going to shake out, but, you know, it kind of is what it is, and we'll deal with it. And so right now the goal is to get in the playoffs, I guess. You know, it's next goal
Kirk,
for this year, 12. Want to be one of 12.
Kirk, you've had obviously a line of tremendous tight ends. You've got Luke Lachey here again for the second year. What stands out about him? Where does kind of fit in those line of tight ends you had?
Yeah, two things I've said. You know, first of all, Luke is one of the, you know, just best young people I've ever coached. He's just a tremendous young man, and we all witnessed that last year. You know, disappointing injury. You know, it's so hard when a guy gets hurt and has his season ended prematurely. But the way he interacted with the guys and the way he helped Addison and was there with Eric until Eric got hurt, he's a really admirable guy. And he's, you know, still respected by everybody on our football team. But he's a really good football player. He's more of a quote-unquote conventional guy. He can play in line. He can still motion. You can put him out a little bit. Good receiving skills. But one thing about our tight end discussion in general, each and every guy's got like a different dynamic, different discussion. One guy that always gets left out, one of the better tight ends I've seen is Henry Krieger-Coble, who just didn't get the speed gene. You know, if he got that, George did. Same family tree, but he didn't get the speed gene. He was an unbelievable college football player. So my point is, like, you know, players come in different sizes, descriptions, strengths, all that, but there's a lot of ways to be good at what you do. And so the commonality is we've just been lucky. We've had a lot of different guys, different descriptions, but all successful.
Looked like it came as genetics, didn't it?
Yeah, genetics don't hurt sometimes. That was George, you know. I mean, his mom, Jan, was the player.
Kirk came back and was a lot last year.
Yep. Yeah, it's just like Luke. It's hard when you're injured, and in his case, excuse me, he got injured in early August. So what everybody saw of him playing, it wasn't him. I don't know what percent he was at, but it wasn't the guy he can be. And we knew that. We'd seen him the year before, but he was the best we had. And so anyway, it's devastating to go through an injury. He's come through that fine. And as we move forward, my concern right now, I'm worried about him wanting to do too much and being too anxious because he's been off the field for 2 years, and it's natural. If you're competitive, like you want to get back and you want to show that you are, legitimate. So my advice to him is just let's try to relax here and just enjoy it. It's your last year in college football. Enjoy every snap, practice, etc. And be a leader. I'm not saying don't do that, but just play. And he doesn't have to win the game for us. Just play. Yep.
You obviously was behind some great players that you had with the program for a while. What did you first see in him? What did you see from him when he was with you guys to be obviously a useful productive linebacker for you, and what you hope to see from him from afar because they're not playing more
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
This final year.
Firstly, he's a great young man. A really good young guy. It was, we weren't sure we were going to get him. We thought we were in pretty good shape till mid-January, and then some other schools got involved. But he stuck with us. We all appreciated that. His commitment was his commitment. He ended up coming. Great young guy on our team. And talked about this earlier. We've had some pretty good linebackers. So, maybe he wasn't playing as much as he wanted or what have you. But he made the choice to go to Oregon. Probably, numerous reasons that none of them matter. But he's a first-class kid. He's great to have on our football team. Great to work with. And I have nothing but strong feelings towards him. I wish him all the best. He's a great young person. And as you know, you cover him, right? I mean, he looks like an NFL player. He's a very talented guy. He's got a great attitude. So, my guess is he's playing probably at a pretty high level.
How have you seen Caleb Brown respond to his situation? And I assume he's going to be out one game. Or
He'll be out one game. Yep.
How have you seen him respond?
He's been good. And, my message to him has been very simply that what's happened. It's unfortunate, and we've had other guys through the years go through the same thing. But all that matters right now is how he responds, how he defines it, how he wants to answer it. And it's like a team losing a game. You can't go back and change yesterday. So what are we going to do moving forward? And so far, so good. And I just encourage him, just like Cade, talking about Cade, just worry about playing this year. Just worry about having a good August, and then we'll take it from there. And it's over unless there's a reason to bring it back up, and I don't anticipate that. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Coach, so
Yep.
you don't have any update on the situation?
Yeah, he'll be suspended for a game. Yeah.
Okay, and then following up, different question. Jared Bowie, obviously, I know you said the depth chart is fluid, but what have you seen from him so far in spring, summer? What have you seen from him?
Really like Jared. Yeah, and two things. I mean, that is one position. I just talked about the offensive line per nauseum a little bit, and then the receiver position is very different. The good news is receivers, in my opinion, don't have to be 20-game starters to really have the maturity to play. And the other component is for us to have a good team, we need good stories. We need guys to have production that they didn't have the year before. Where at the end of the year, people say, "Well, geez, where'd he come from, or how'd that happen?" That's kind of been the history of our program, and I think Jared's a candidate for that. Unbelievable attitude, unbelievable work ethic. He's got good skills. We saw him improve during the course of the fall, and in bowl prep, saw him take another step. So I think he's totally capable of playing. I'll throw Dayton Howard in there. If you were at the last practice, made a catch over on the sidelines. He had a couple of plays that kind of caught my eye. That was easily his best day of spring practice. And just watching him in the summer program, looks like he's growing and maturing, gaining some confidence in himself. And so, if we're going to have a good team, we're going to need some young guys to step up and do it that way, whether it's Caleb or Jerry, older guy, younger guy.
What are your opinions on in-helmet communication
In helmet, first of all, it's just good for the game. It'll make the quality of play better. I wish it had happened sooner. Selfishly, it was perfect timing because we changed our offense. We have a lot of verbiage in our play calling now, and we do call plays. We don't hold signs up, so it's going to help the quarterback a little bit. The sideline tablets, I'm just glad we caught up to high school football. Kudos to us for catching up to high school football. But I can tell you from being in the NFL, it's a great teaching aid to have pictures on the sidelines. probably the biggest challenge is that we probably have too much information because it's video. So we're going to have to learn how to, get to what's important and then shut up as coaches.
Do you think the Michigan situation accelerated this?
Sure didn't hurt. I mean, it was a simple solution. Solve that problem real fast. Yep. Of course, we're going to have to do this now, right? We're all going to have to, when we're talking. I didn't practice that yet. Yeah, I mean, you can make that argument. Yeah, I don't know if people want to huddle though, but we don't. We would on defense, except we can't because everybody else is no huddle. So if we huddle, we're at a disadvantage. So, yeah, I'm old-fashioned. Like there's some community in the huddle, right? Sense of community. We play a communal game, so yeah, it's part. Get into the deep part of it all. Yeah.
What would you say about the job that he's done or that was said as well as management?
Yeah, no, he's an outstanding football coach, outstanding person. I knew of him at Vanderbilt, and the work that he did at Vanderbilt, and it was outstanding. And he's done a great job at Penn State too, which is no surprise. I grew up in that part of the country. It's long been a really good program, very respected. And, I'm going back to the '60s now. I'm dating myself as a kid, and I mean that's where I wanted to go to college. Full disclosure. The only difference is they were trying to win, and they didn't need any 5', 198-pound linebackers. So I didn't make the cut. But yeah, it's been a great program, long story program, and they're doing a great job. Yeah, to this day.
Kirk, you bring in Nick Jackson.
Come back. I'm sorry. Who got? Okay.
You brought in Nick Jackson last year. You thought it was just going to be a one-year thing, and he described it as drinking out of a fire hose. You have him now for year 2 in this defensive system. What sort of improvement do you expect from somebody as good as Nick was last year?
Yeah, so I do believe in Santa Claus, and getting those guys back was, part of that. That was Merry Christmas for all of us. Nick was like, if you talk about going out and transfer portal and all that stuff, we tried to be fairly cautious and, just, diligent with our work and all that. Nick to me is like represents the perfect, transfer guy. We've had a couple of those guys. Rusty Fetz was the same on the offensive side, but guys that really fit what we needed. And Nick, we lost not only really good players at linebacker, but lost really good leadership too with Benson and Campbell graduating. Felt good about Jay, but we wanted to have a running mate for him, and Nick brought that. He's got a sense of maturity. You visit with him; he's an extremely mature young man for his age. Finance degree in hand, just the guy's a winner. And the fun part is to watch him each and every week just play faster and get better. Talking to somebody about Castro earlier today. The difference between Sebastian last year and 2 years ago is the speed he plays at. And he hasn't gotten that much faster, but he's playing faster because it's all working for him. And that's the value of repetition, being in a program and being in a system. So, I'm just elated he's back, and I'm elated all those guys are back. And not to compliment our team, but I think it just speaks well. Those guys want to come back. And then, secondly, they're the kind of guys you want back because they're guys that should be in the front of the room, and, younger guys will benefit if they're paying attention. Yeah, there's a couple of answers to that one. I mean, novel. I felt like Bud Grant. I'll date myself. I felt like Bud Grant being on the sideline with another team, Metropolitan Stadium or whatever it was called when I was a little kid. So that was weird. I want to congratulate Ron Snodgrass, the official, the referee of that game, because that was tough for him. A lot of judgment, just common sense he had to factor in. And we both agreed, Coach Ron and I agreed not to, act like idiots. So let's, be patient, let him run the clock and all that stuff. But there were some challenges that way, and then the field was not great, especially down that one end zone. That aside, it was cool. It was novel. And, so would I want to do it again? Probably not. I don't know. We'll see. But
I guess now they are able to be on opposite sides of things.
It'd make it a lot better. Yeah. I mean, it'd make it a lot better. And there were some little sullies that go on during the game people don't think about. And, we hadn't thought about it until, oh, crap, we're playing in a baseball field. We're all both on the same. So, yeah, that'll make it much, much better. Hopefully get the field.
Easy
field
questions
solved.
back here.
Yeah.
Always for me.
I like easy.
Well, in the past I've asked about the Children's Hospital. I've asked about a number of things. when we were there this summer, we saw you walking around, but just Iowa City, what's it like how the community just embraces the university and vice versa? What does that mean to the college atmosphere and to you and all your athletes?
Yeah, that is the softball, and appreciate that. I'll go back, 40-some years. When I came here in 81, it's a long story how I got here, but I got hired in June, which is a weird time for an assistant to be hired. I really didn't want to, I was going into year 2 as a GA with my high school coach, Joe Moore, who's, my mentor in coaching. So the plan was, I knew I had a 2-year deal with my wife. She was going to support me for 2. So anyway, I figured, hey, if you get a chance to interview, at least I'll figure out what you do in an interview. And so I have to go get a job. Maybe I'll have some clue. And so long story short, Coach Fry agreed to bring me out. And I didn't know where Iowa was. Had to look on a map. There was no Google. And then, second question, what do you do in Iowa City? Like, why would anybody live there? And one day figured out, this is a pretty special place. It just kind of knocked me away. Living here 9 years, it was really tough. When we left, it was hard. So quality of life, whether I've lived there now 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, no matter what age you are, the quality of life is outstanding. There's plenty of things to do. People in the Midwest, I think, are pretty, welcoming, and people in Iowa are just that times 10. So it's an easy place to live, really an easy place to live. You don't go there for the weather, obviously, but it's just the quality of life's been really good. So I feel very fortunate.
Kirk, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about Brian getting the job at Maryland. Your thoughts on him getting that job at Maryland and playing them this fall?
Yeah, well, the playing part was out of our control, certainly. Either way, didn't know how it was going to materialize. But, first of all, I'm appreciative of the opportunity he's gotten. I know he is too. And appreciative of Coach Loxley. I've always had a lot of respect for Mike as a person, as a coach. So, as a dad, the dad side of things, I want all my kids to be around good people professionally. So I feel good about that. And it's a good opportunity for him. And, just excited to see where it all goes. Wish everybody the best there. Yeah, so full disclosure up until about a month ago, I had not given that any thought. But just talking to people around the state a little bit this month, and it's amazing how many people are already making plans to go out there from Iowa. It kind of caught me off guard, but it's kind of like last year. Everybody went to Wrigley because of the novelty aspect. And if I was there when we went to Iowa for the first time in 19 years in 1981. It was a huge thing. So I think there's that attraction for a lot of our fans. They're going to love it, and so I'm all for that. From our standpoint, it's going to be a tough competitive game. So it's that doesn't change. If it was in the first month, I'd be a little concerned maybe about, especially first couple of weeks. That part of the season, no. I don't mind playing Fridays at all. I think it's actually a positive.
What's it like seeing AJ now in this role in Big Ten, and how helpful is it to have that?
Yeah, that's one of the good things, again, of being somewhere for a while. You get to work with a lot of good people. Then it's really neat to see them in their adult lives, professional, personal, all those kinds of things. And AJ's a great example of that. You can tell when you coach him, he's, certain guys just have a maturity to them and a vision. And, so it's pretty clear. It seemed like he wanted to get into athletics in some form or fashion. Not necessarily in coaching. He's a little smart at it, but he wanted to do something. So to see him end up in this role, I'm not shocked. And he's, from my perspective, doing a great job. And he and Coach Tony Petitti make a great team. So, it's been good for all of us, I think. It's hard for anybody. Anytime a player gets hurt, that's the single worst part about, most challenging part about being a coach. And I guess it could be worse. I don't even go down that street, but it just, when a kid gets injured, it's hard because they work so hard. In football, we're so different. We only get 12 guaranteed opportunities. Other sports have many more. So when you work hard for those limited amount of opportunities and have them taken, there's no way you can make it make sense to a player. And all you can do is, you got to get over it. At some point, it's good to feel bad about it, but at some point you got to get over it and shift your focus to what's in front, the rehab, and then the realization that your career is not done and there's still opportunity in front of you. So, if that was his final year of eligibility, it would have really been, close to devastating. But at least he had something to look forward to, and he's fixated on that, and he's doing a good job.
Kirk, with two transfers from Northwestern, and Brendan and Jacob, what did you like from them on film when you were looking at them before?
Game experience, maturity. We got caught in a situation a year ago with our starting quarterback not being fully healthy and then not healthy at all. And with all due respect to Deacon, he'd probably be the first to tell you he wasn't ready. I mean, he wasn't equipped to play in Big Ten play at that point. So, I think, with Brandon, we're in a little different situation. We got to see him on game film in conference play the week before we played Northwestern. He led their team to a really good victory against Maryland and looked extremely impressive in that game. They really got into a good rhythm, and he was a big part of that. So, I'm anxious to see him with a helmet on now and be coached and play in the offense. But, from what I think all of us were unanimous in thinking that he's a guy, that we could maybe put a package together for, and also hopefully when he comes in, he can be a competitive guy for us. And if he can compete with Kate, that's great. That makes everybody better. But I think we've helped ourselves there. Watching the summer program, extremely competitive, extremely, high effort guy. And, so it's a positive start. Now I'm anxious to see him as a football player. And then Jacob's the same way. He's not flashy necessarily, but he's had production. He's mature. He's got a really good attitude, very serious attitude. And that's a young room, some maturity. Guys that have been in the college experience. I just mentioned Nick and Rusty, a couple, guys last year that brought that into the rooms that they entered. When you lose guys out of a room or don't have guys in the room that have those components, it's just good. It makes the environment a little bit better.
In your mind, what are you mentioned a ton of experience going back with this team. Where do you feel like your question marks are for you as a head coach coming into the season?
Oh, they're everywhere. I mean, it's just, our defensive guys did a good job last year. Congratulations. They got their pats on the back. Everybody's got them. So what are we going to do now moving forward? And they need to be living in the now, which they are. I mean, they're all training hard, working hard. But, we haven't done anything this year on defense. And then, the areas where we don't have that experience, how can we catch up? And then, also in combination is, good news about a senior class. I kind of alluded to this, that 83 line, 7 guys graduate. Oh, crap. What are we going to do next year? We need guys getting ready for next year now. Yeah, that's all part of the process, too. So at every level on our team, we need guys developing because we're not just going to, pick somebody out in recruiting and plug them in. And our guys know that and understand that. And, so just watching all the battles at different levels and the growth development. I told the guys yesterday before they left, it's, I'm anxious to see them in August because we'll look different than we did in April. I mean, we better, all right, first of all, but also we'll look different. And I'm really eager to see who's who and what's what. And I don't know how much information I'll have with you that first time we meet you, but at the end of the month, we should have a better grip on the team, what they look like.
What do you think of Cade Piper winning the Solon Big Days Hay Bear Toss?
Yeah, he wasn't too braggadocious about it. I think he was the favorite, but to that point, I asked my guy Jennings yesterday about it, and he let me know that. I said, so did he break the record? He says, well, no, the record still stands. I said, let me take a wild guess. You wouldn't know who set the record, right? Chest out and all that stuff, but so no, it's good. Cade's gonna be a fun guy to watch. He's a guy that's really caught our eye last year. He's got a really good attitude, good work ethic, and I don't know how many bad players we've had win the hay baling contest so far, but it's a good sign. Hope he can move people instead of hay bales.
What's changed with young quarterbacks in the last decade or similar time frame that's made freshmen, young players able to win at that position that you couldn't see in the past?
Yeah, I think part of it's just there's so much more football being played year-round now in the AAU 7-on-7 teams or whatever I don't know what their classifications are, but just a lot more of it going on now. And, kids from the Midwest are playing in those leagues and all that. But, part of it, too, it's sometimes the overcoaching, it's like Little League Baseball. Sometimes you can do damage instead of good. by being overcoached or coached by people that really don't have a good fundamental grip of what you're doing. So, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there's a set answer for it, but probably just the volume of football that gets played. And I guess, I don't know if we have enough evidence yet, but in baseball, I think it's done a lot of damage. I think John Smoltz said that when he got inducted in the Hall of Fame. Arm damage. You wonder how many guys quit, burn out earlier than they would have. But, yeah, I probably don't have a good answer for you.
You'd rather see a blank, you'd rather get a blank slate.
I don't
Hey, if we could have got, Andrew Luck, I would have been all for it. I'm guessing he got a little head start at home, because his dad was a pretty good quarterback. But, yeah, I think every story is different, probably. Yeah, and, if you're quote-unquote program quarterbacks, they're not always the best guys. I said this earlier. In 2002, the crisis situation at that media days was that we didn't have any quarterbacks in the Big Ten. And all of a sudden, Brad Banks ends up being Player of the Year, AP Player of the Year, and runner-up to Carson Palmer for the Heisman. So out of nowhere, here comes a guy who had never started a college game at quarterback, didn't have an AAU coach, he's just a ball player. But man, he played well that year, and so he's the wonder pro guy. He didn't have the size or velocity for it. So I mean, some guys just have a little better knack for like all positions, and where it can take them, it takes them. But yeah, I don't think it's hurt anybody to be playing as much as they play. But it doesn't necessarily guarantee they're going to be good college players, and certainly doesn't guarantee they're going to be good pro players.
Last question.
I'm not smart enough to know. I think, for a long time we didn't have divisions, and we went to them, legends, leaders, East, West. One commonality going on 35 in the league, 35 years, everybody thinks they're getting screwed on the schedule. It's always the case, unless you play round robin, which we had only 10 teams in the 80s, right? But we still played 8 games. So, geez, you didn't play so-and-so, you didn't play so-and-so, and it's, so that's a commonality, and you can't do anything about it. So just worry about the teams you play. Get a good draw, so be it. And what looks like a good draw in August isn't always a good draw in November, so